Concentration is the one rule that I always forget exists and thus struggled to implement at my tables when I was running Dungeons & Dragons. In this video, I'm going to give you the full breakdown on what concentration is, how you can use it in your games, and some easy ways to keep track of it. So what is concentration? Well, some spells, like Bless, have an extra tag on their duration field that tells us if a player needs to concentrate on the specific spell. You can think of this like flexing a muscle, and spellcasters can only flex the one muscle they have at a time. So thus you can only concentrate on one spell at a time. So if your cleric is concentrating on the Bless spell, they would still be able to cast things like Guiding Bolt that don't require concentration, but they wouldn't be able to cast a spell like Bane without first giving up the concentration on Bless first. So that's the bare bone basics of concentration. Let's amp it up a step. A caster is going to maintain concentration unless something bonks them out of it. So first, it's important to note that a player can bonk themselves. At any point, the player that is concentrating on the spell can just decide to end that concentration with no impact or negative effects. Another way concentration ends is if the max duration of the spell that's being concentrated on is over. So if the cleric is concentrating on Bless and it goes over that 1 minute threshold, well then there's no need to continue concentrating on it, the magic is gone. And then finally, if the player that is concentrating on the spell gets incapacitated or falls dead. Now, obviously, one of those is a little grimmer than the others, and there is something that can interrupt concentration before we get to the death point. And this is the one that I struggled with the most. Whenever the player that is concentrating on a spell takes damage in combat or otherwise, they need to make a Constitution saving throw to see if they're going to maintain their concentration on the spell. Now, the difficulty check sets itself here. The difficulty check is equal to either half the damage taken or 10. So what this means is unless your players are taking hits of 21 damage or more, the difficulty is always going to be 10. Now, it's important for me to note here that this check is based off of single sources of damage. So if a player is taking multiple hits in one turn, you're going to have to make a check for each type and source of damage. So let's say that our cleric is being bombarded by the full brunt of a magic missile attack. They would not need to make one concentration check for the total damage they receive. They need to make 3 different checks for each missile that hits them. So I've gone through the rule, and the rule itself isn't that hard, is it? I'll tell you what's infinitely harder: remembering that it exists. You know, you've got 1,000 other things to keep track of. How is this rule going to be on the forefront of your mind when there's 1,000 other things going on? Well, let me give you a couple tips. Something that I did for the longest time when I was really focusing on this rule is I would mark the letter C next to the name of the player that is concentrating on my initiative tracker. This means that as I go through initiative, I would remember who is concentrating on what. This isn't the perfect solution because it does require you to spend an awkward amount of time looking at your initiative tracker, but it does at least put pencil to paper. Now, the system I use now is infinitely better, and the only downside is it costs a little bit of money, but I got this as a gift, so it didn't cost me squat. I got a set of these different conditions circles as a Christmas gift last year. These have been great because whenever my players get impacted by any condition, well, there's a circle for that, and this includes concentration, which I'll be honest is what I use these for primarily. So whenever a player starts concentrating on a spell, I'm able to throw a horseshoe up there that signifies they are concentrating, and then it's way easier to keep track of because when I'm moving my enemies on the map and they make that attack, the ring is telling me that I should make them make a concentration check. If you are looking to pick up your own cheap set of condition trackers, I will link to the gift that I was given. It's only 20 Canadian dollars, and I have to note legally that that is an Amazon affiliate link, which will support the channel at no extra cost to you. And that is all you need to know about concentration at your table. Go out there and make your spellcasters regret not putting more points into their Constitution score. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll do my best to answer for you. Happy adventuring, folks, and I will see you next time